Thank you for joining me on another episode of She Leads Now podcast, where we help career and entrepreneurial women gain the tools to develop a success mindset, create winning strategies, build collaborative relationships, and take bold action towards creating impact and fulfillment in their lives and careers. I'm your host, Sabine Gideon, and I'm on a mission to awaken and activate women and emerging leaders so they can tap into their innate leadership ability, elevate their influence, and create the impact they were destined to make. If you're ready to up-level your confidence, courage, and influence, you've come to the right place. Join me weekly for insights, strategies, and resources to help you grow, develop, and embody the leader you are meant to be, so that you can make the impact you know you are called to make and establish the legacy you've always dreamed. The world eagerly awaits the emergence of your brilliance, impact, and influence. So with that, let's dive into this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of She Leads Now. I'm your host, Sabine Gideon, and we are back for another installment of the 3M series, Mindfulness, Mindset, and Manifestation. So at the time of this recording, it is summer. We're winding down summer, actually, of 2023. I know that many of you have been traveling. Many of you have been on the go. And so I figured that this was a good time to do the series. And because I am fresh off of the transformation train, if you will, transformation chamber is what I like to call it, just fresh out. I wanted to take this time to share what that has been like, because most of the episodes that have been released this year have actually been episodes that I recorded last year. Took a break, Q2, from recording the podcast just because I was in the darkness of my soul, as I like to call it, and just didn't have the capacity to come on a weekly basis. I did do a series, the Power of Money series, which was a live series that was broadcast on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook during that time. And it was really focused on helping women heal their relationship with money and some of the money wounds that they may have. But ultimately, your girl was done, and she needed that time and she needed that space, which is what we're going to be talking about today, around setting boundaries, learning to set boundaries. And through this process of transformation, I thought I had boundaries before, but I learned my boundaries were loose as a goose and needed some tightening up. Mostly the boundaries that I learned to set were boundaries for myself and boundaries with others, and being okay with setting boundaries. And so we'll talk through what that process looked like. If this is your first time listening to the show, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. If you have not caught the previous episodes of this series, go back and listen. You'll learn a little bit more about what started this transformation chamber experience. I did not expect it to be a transformation chamber experience. I just thought it was, oh yeah, I'm going to level up in my business. And it turned out to be by far the biggest transformational experience I've had to date, as well as the most grueling, the most healing, the most powerful, and the most growth-oriented. So I'm excited to be on the other side. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I recognize that, it does no one any good to just hear about rock bottom to ultimate success. We hear that so much, which is what makes growth scary or demotivating, or when people experience resistance during their process of growth. That's why people tend to walk away or let go, or just say, you know what, life is this way and it's always going to be this way. And if I've learned anything through this process, is that we really truly have the power to create the life that we want. It will require us sacrificing the life that we have, the beliefs that we have, some of the people that we have attracted into our lives, but it's not impossible to change your life. And I'm proof and a living witness to that. And I've coached others who have done the same. And I've been coached by others who have done the same. So I'm a firm believer of it. And so I'm sharing my process so that I can give you a little bit more of the behind the scenes of what you hear a lot of these coaches talking about, so that one, you're not crazy. And two, if and when you are in that process of transition, that you have some tools that you can pick up or add to your tool belt to help move you through the process of transformation. And so, as I mentioned today, we're going to be talking about setting boundaries and what that looks like. So, I grew up as the youngest within my household. And, I share this all the time, but basically, our subconscious mind from 0 to 7, right? So, from conception to about the time we're 7, our subconscious mind is processing everything that we experience. So whether that's the emotions of our parents, what's being said in the household, how we are dealing with our siblings, how we deal with caregivers, how we deal with people at school, kids, teachers, all of these messages. It's like our subconscious mind is just like it's on record. And so once we get to a certain age or stage, which is usually about the age 7 or 8, it says, okay, cool. I got all the information I need. And it starts supporting you in creating experiences that reflect everything you took in from 0 to 7. And so many of us don't know that, and we don't recognize that, and we think we are in the driver's seat and creating new experiences. But if you really take a step back and you're honest with yourself, and you put up that big old mirror that the Power of Ted, which is the book that I shared one of the earlier episodes, when that mirror comes up, you will see, oh no, you've been creating the same pattern from your childhood. It's been different characters, different locations, different situations, but it's been the same experience in what it is that you believe about yourself and what you believe about life. So when it comes to that, or the reason why I share that is, in my household, I was not taught how to set boundaries. And matter of fact, I was penalized if I ever dared demonstrate boundaries, whether that was in me expressing emotion when I was hurt, when I was sad, when I was mad, when I was angry. I had older siblings who bullied me in more ways than one. There was abuse and on all types of levels. And of course, the relationship with my parents. I learned at a very early age that the only way to not get picked on or to not be abused or to not feel bad is to people please and to do what others wanted me to do. And so again, as a kid, that became my defense mechanism, right? And so that was going out of my way, like when my siblings were mean to me, going out of my way and begging. Can you imagine begging for their forgiveness so that they would like me, or doing extra chores, or if my mother was abusive towards me, finding ways to make her feel better, or prepping, always being on guard, basically, that I didn't want to experience anyone's wrath or the negativity that came with people being mean to me. So I learned very early on to counteract that by overgiving and just being there and being supportive and doing all of the things. And so if you look at my career, which I hope most of you, as you're listening to this, it's drawing some parallels. If you look at my career, all of the roles that I've been in and that I've worked in have always been about serving others. Like even from starting at 13, like I was babysitting, I used to go out of my way, not charge the parents. It's just been a cycle that I had been creating. And probably if you would have asked me a year ago, I'd have been like, oh my gosh, I am not a people pleaser. Yes, I was. Like I was level 10 people pleaser. The thing is, it showed up differently in different situations, in different environments. So with my family, because they had been my first introduction into people pleasing as a result of avoiding abuse and avoiding pain, at some point I developed this wall or this defense mechanism where the only way that I could not, or I guess the way that I learned not to allow them to, hurt me, was to cut off access. And so I believed that because I limited access to me as it related to my family, that was my way of setting a boundary, and that I had boundaries and I was strong. But not really. I just that was just another defense mechanism. When it came to work, I didn't have boundaries. I think about clients, like, right, like sessions were supposed to end and I would just continue to give. The many, many years of corporate America where I was working 50, 60 hours, the many seasons of burnout that I experienced. It was just, it's just been I'm a give, I'm a give, I'm a give, I'm a give. But I never saw it as people pleasing. So I didn't realize that I struggled with boundaries because there was the part of me that recognized that I wanted people to like me. And if I wanted to avoid pain or not feeling good, that the only way to counteract that or to get in front of that was to give people what they wanted or what I thought they wanted or needed to, in some cases, like me, but also in many cases, not to hurt me or not to abandon me or not to shun me. So there were a lot, there are a lot of tapes playing in the background of my adult life that I just kept recreating in different aspects. And so as I was going through this process, through this journey, a few things took place that it was almost like they were gifts to me. Well, I won't say it was almost, they were gifts to me in that in previous seasons of my life, I wouldn't have recognized them as opportunities to set a boundary. I would have seen it as someone is doing something to me, or I'm the victim in this, or this person is horrible, whatever justification that I was used to giving to it, or I would, go within myself and hide. And so a couple instances took place. One started with my family. And once that took place, and I think my eyes were a lot more open, I recognized that one, I had to heal because there were some things that I thought it was about setting boundaries where no, I was just putting it away. So there was a whole process of healing with members in my family. And then one member of my family in particular, who for a very long time, I had convinced myself that this was the closest relationship that I had. And, this is just the way that she is or was, or whatever the case may be. This particular boundary stepping, if you will, or overstepping in this place of awakening that I was in caused me to see or allowed me to see that the foundation of our relationship has always been me being the people pleaser and experiencing the narcissistic behavior. And in that moment when it happened, it was devastating because it was almost like I'd been living this lie. I had been living this lie. The person that I thought was the closest person to me, and if no one else in the family cared about me, that it was this person. It was almost like my eyes were open, and I was just like, oh wow, no, that's not true. And my behavior towards this person or with this person has reinforced this treatment of me. And I had to make the tough decision that, you know what, this person can no longer have access to me. It didn't mean that I cut them off. It didn't mean that I stopped talking to them. We speak occasionally, but I made the decision, and I guess I gave myself permission to stop pretending. And so that was one catalyst. And then I experienced a couple other things with people who were more or less relatively close to me, or at least they had access to me. Let's put it that way. That made me question, okay, what is it about me that makes these people think or believe that it's okay to treat me this way? And the funny thing is, I also recognized that they were only treating me the way that I had allowed them to treat me in the past. Like I fully take ownership, responsibility, and accountability in everything that I'm sharing here, that no one did anything to me. Now, their behavior was not ideal, but I'm not saying that anyone did anything to me, but in people behaving the way that they had always behaved, I recognized it a lot differently and had the opportunity to decide whether or not I would continue to accept that behavior or decide that that behavior was no longer allowed. And that's what I did. So this is not a blaming. This is not a shaming by any means. But again, this was a process that I had to go through in my journey of transformation. So if you are listening and you have emailed me in the last 9 months, you likely got an out of office message from me or, at some point. And I got that out of office message or that template from a time management coach that I interviewed on the podcast, Anna Mc. Oh, I don't want to mess Anna's last name up. I will put her a link to her episode in the show notes. But she has a podcast. It's called It's About Time, and she focuses on time management. She focuses on productivity, a host of different tools that you can use to make life easier. So that's whether it's in your business, your career, your household, whatever. She is all about maximizing time, being as efficient as possible, and doing all the things that you love. So Anna Dearman-McCormick. And so I will link her podcast episode in the show notes while she was on She Leads Now, and you can check her out on the It's About Time podcast. But anyways, got the template from Anna, and basically it was setting expectations, right? So at the forefront was my clients, right? So I let the clients know you'll hear back from me in 24 to 48 hours. And then kind of like thought about like, who was I getting messages from on a regular basis and what was an appropriate timeline? And so when I first put this out of office on, there was a part of me that was so scared because up until then, I was the type of person where if I went to bed and I did not answer every email that came through my inbox, I felt like I let people down. I feel like I was not showing up. I was not being an A player. These are all of the messages that were playing through my inner critic in my head. And so email messaging or people just reaching out to me, period, there was such a sense of obligation within myself to respond, to support, to give, if you will, that when I didn't and when I couldn't, I felt horrible. As you can imagine, that also contributed to the cycles of burnout because I was always working or I was always thinking about work or I was always thinking about the needs of other people. And so when I put this out of office on, at first, it was really, really scary. Then I kind of paused and maybe like month one or after 30 days and into month two, I was like, wait a minute, this feels good. This feels kind of good. So I moved from being scared to feeling guilty to thinking like, wow, I can go to bed with emails in my inbox. And I was okay because I knew that I already set the expectation with people that this is when I was going to respond. And so as time went on, I started getting comments from people about the out of office. And at first I was triggered and I couldn't understand why I was so triggered by the commentary. And they didn't come through as like, how dare you put up that out of office? No, that would have been too easy. They came through more so as, yeah, it's nice that you could put up this out of office that, tells people that you're not going to get back to them anytime soon. It was those little sly comments. And at first, again, like I said, I was moving through feeling guilty and shamed and all that other stuff. And so when these comments started coming in, when I was in that space, like, again, it was triggering my insecurity. Like, maybe I should take it down. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, who do I think that I am? That I could be telling people that I won't get back to them or I'll get back to them when I have time. I was internalizing the messages of these people until it took a while for me to realize that no. They were basically telling me that, yes, basically they were saying, who do I think I am? But what they were telling me was they were so used to having access to me that seeing this like threw them off, right? And so that was their way of telling me that they were not comfortable with my boundaries. And not only that, it gave me insight to the fact that they probably don't have boundaries, but that's for a different episode. But what I learned in that process was that, when we set a boundary with anyone, it forces them and it challenges them to change. And people don't like change. If they are used to having access to you, if they are used to treating you a certain way and you switch up, oh, that resistance, that ugly monster, whatever you want to call it, is going to show up and it's going to say, you're going back to who you used to be and how I knew you. And so, in those instances in the beginning, when they were happening, I felt all the shame, I felt all the guilt, I felt all the regret until I said, no, I am not taking this out of office off. And I am okay with not coming to everybody's beck and call through email. And I did the same thing with my LinkedIn inbox as well. I didn't do the out of office, but I also just gave myself permission to not have to respond day of or 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever whatever unreasonable timeline I had set in my mind. So through that process, I share this to share that, even when we are in our space of transition and transformation, and we start to experience, wow, this is me taking my power back, expect people not to like it. So outside of people making sly comments, I had people downright ask me to take it down or turn it off. Like people really had that level of audacity. Also through that process of learning to set and hold boundaries, I had people like scheduling time on my calendar just cause like I didn't have anything else to do. And in the past, I would have just been like, okay, well, you know what? They scheduled the time, so let me go ahead and meet with them. But because this was happening in this time and space where I literally just didn't have the capacity. I told you guys in the last episode, there were a few months where I just was in darkness and empty. I didn't even have the capacity. So even if I wanted to show up on fumes, I didn't have it in me. And I had decided that I don't want to live a life where I have to always feel like I'm on fumes. I want people around me, or I want people in my circle or in my space or clients, whatever, who respect those boundaries. And anyone who couldn't respect those boundaries, you don't have access to me. So between the sly comments, between people coming out their mouth crazy and asking me to take down the out of office, to people just, expecting time from me. I remember this one situation, and I won't go too many details, but you know, someone had reached out because they wanted to hang out with me, right? And again, I'm telling you, I'm at my lowest, lowest financially, lowest spiritually, lowest emotionally. Like I'm fighting for my life literally every single freaking day. And this person reached out to me, and they were like, how are you doing? And in the time, like, I was just, I wanted to be honest, but I didn't want to go into too much detail. And I was just like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. And I shared with them a couple of the things that I was experiencing. And it was like, oh, okay, cool. So about us hanging out. And it just like, it was a light bulb for me. It was just like, wow. Like, have I been that much of I don't know if doormat is the proper term, but have I been so willing to show up regardless of where I was or what I was experiencing, that people couldn't even recognize when I was saying where I thought I was saying clearly that I didn't have it in me and that I needed help. And so that process, or that period during the process, or during the journey, made me double down even more on setting my boundaries, communicating my boundaries, saying no, and accepting that some people aren't going to like it, that some people are going to feel some type of way, that some people are going to resist, some people are going to challenge me, and some people are going to invite me to go back to the old me. And I kid you not, I to this day, I am at such a better place when it comes to setting boundaries. Like my no is no, my yes is yes. And the thing, and I'll share this as a tip, but one of the questions that I use for myself now when I get asked something or asked to support or asked to do, my question to myself is, by me saying yes to this, am I showing up as who I used to be? or am I showing up as the person I want to be? And that is how I'm making decisions moving forward. That is how I am deciding, and I am owning my power of what I say yes to, who I say yes to, what I engage in. If it's pulling me back to a person or an identity or a way of being that I have fought hell and back not to be, then the answer is no. If it is going to propel me forward, then the answer is yes. And even if it's a yes, sometimes if it's a not right now, then it's also a not right now, because I am putting me first in what it is that I need. And I want reflected back to me who I am and who I am becoming, not who I was. And I also only want people around me who reflect who I am and who I am becoming, not the people of my past. So this episode was actually a lot longer than I expected, but hopefully you got some tidbits out of that. And if nothing else, the question, right? Is this serving me? Is this serving the current me, the present me, or the me that I'm creating? Or is this serving the me that I am trying to change and transition away from? And using that as your back burner and not being afraid to use the word no. So many of us, especially women, the guilt, the shame, the embarrassment, all of that stuff that comes with us, feeling like we let other people down. And guess what? That's life. I'm sorry if I sound, insensitive to that, but as a person who has served others tirelessly, endlessly, till I had nothing left, many, 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 many years. Now I'm in the place where, you know what, I'm in a season of receiving. I will always be a giver. I will always be generous of my time, of my knowledge, of my wisdom, whatever it is that people need. If I have it, I'm willing to give, but not at the sacrifice of my own mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, whatever well-being. So that is what I have on setting boundaries. If you have not emailed me and you're listening to this and you're curious, go ahead and send me an email, Sabine@SabineGideon.com, and you will see the email template, and feel free to use it. I did get permission from Anna that I could share it because she worked with a time management coach at one point and was able to leverage that. So don't be afraid to use it if it makes sense for you or if parts of it make sense for you. I know that for those of you who work in traditional environments, it probably won't be received, and you'll receive some backlash that could, really impede your success in your career. So, be wise and be discerning. But, for your own personal email, if that's what you need, I will leave you with that. We will be back next week with another installment of the 3M series, Mindfulness, Mindset, and Manifestation. A couple of real quick announcements. If you are interested in getting a pre-order, the link is in the show notes. Just look for it. It'll say book pre-order. Go ahead and check that out. For those of you who pre-order, I will send you an email, or you'll get an email communication, and it will ask for your shipping information, and I will send that out to you. Or actually, when you pre-order it, you'll have to put in your information. But nonetheless, I will send you out a signed copy with a nice message of encouragement to support you either in the transformation that you're in or will be heading into. So go ahead and check that out. I still have openings for private coaching clients as we move into the fall. I know that a lot of people are considering, what's next for me going into 2024. I highly recommend thinking through where you might need support and how to start strategizing for that now and getting support versus waiting until the beginning of the year. So if at the very least you're thinking about coaching and just want to learn about my process and want to see if it might be a good fit, feel free to send me an email at Sabine@SabineGideon.com. We can schedule some time for discovery, see if there's a fit and how I might support you. If you listen to this and boundaries are on your list of things to develop, or someone who is struggling with setting boundaries and really building the mindset around it or uncovering why they don't exist today, and then leveraging some of the tools that I shared, please, please, please go ahead and share this with them. And if you aren't subscribed to the show, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. And then last two things, if you have not caught up on the Power of Money series, where I interviewed 13 experts in the space of money, whether that was money mindset, to financial advisors, to debt elimination, to long-term savings, whatever you want to call it, feel free to go on my YouTube channel and check that out. Just search my name or search the Power of Money, POWHER of money, and that should come up. And then lastly, thank you. Thank you for showing up this week. Thank you for listening. For those of you who have messaged me in these previous episodes, and shared parts of your journey or shared the ahas that you have, it means so much to me. And I don't want this to be about you checking in, listening to me every week, and then going about your week, feeling alone or feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so far above my head. I want to be as transparent as possible, and I want to share the tools. And so please, at the very least, as you listen, write down some of the tools, write down some of the things that spark for you. Maybe you don't need it right now. Maybe it'll be months from now before it shows up, or maybe it'll be days before you come across someone. But nonetheless, I do appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you sharing with me. Feel free to let me know if there's anything specific about the journey. I still have more episodes on this series that I will be sharing. But if there's anything specific that you want me to talk about or to share or to shed some more light on, I'm happy to do so. Just send me an email at Sabine@SabineGideon.com. With that, have a wonderful rest of the day and rest of the week. And I will chat with you next week. Take care and talk to you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of She Leads Now. If you found today's episode helpful or got a piece of insight that you plan to implement in your business or organization, I would love to hear from you. Connect with me on LinkedIn at Sabine Gideon, that's my handle, and send me a private message. Or feel free to go ahead and leave a review on either Apple or Spotify. I also invite you to share this episode with anyone in your network who you think might benefit from this content. Lastly, be sure to check the show notes and the description below for links to resources, including relevant downloads, articles, and any upcoming training. Until we chat again, have a blessed and powerful week.